Good evening and welcome to the February Supper Club. This year we've been doing topics around issues of faith in the 21st century, and this month we are utilizing a TED Talk again. So we've chosen speakers and TED Talks that we think are really compelling and valuable to have discussions around the supper table. This month the topic is the moral roots of liberals and conservatives. And it's about a 20-minute TED Talk. So you do want to allow for 20 minutes to watch this, and we encourage you to do so before we proceed. Right?
Pause now. Yep, go watch
Pause now and go watch it. So the moral psychologist Jonathan Haidt is the speaker in this TED Talk, and he will lay out some foundations of moral philosophy and where we lean.
Yeah, it's a fascinating talk. So even though it's a little on the long side, we think it'll be interesting. Great for going into the election this year, of course. Yes. And one of the things he starts out talking about is that just from birth, that we come out of the womb with a kind of a preset around these 5 moral foundations, right? But he also says, but that's just the beginning. You're not set in stone. These things your experiences are going to make a big difference in how you land and how you end up. And they're malleable, even as adults, thankfully, right? We can still change our minds about these these 5 foundations, or these are think of them as values or lenses that you might think about when you're making a moral decision. So one is around harm and care, right? One is around fairness or reciprocity. Are you being fair? Are you giving something when you get something? That's a value that some people think about a lot. In-group or loyalty, that's one of them. Authority is a 4th one, or respect. And the last one is around purity and sanctity. And fascinatingly, they've done these studies that have shown across the world, different countries. You can go on, what is it, My Morals?
It's called yourmorals.org and take a questionnaire that these researchers have put out, have posted for you to understand your own moral psychological propensities.
And like 30,000 people have taken this around the world, and over, folks who self-identify as more liberal tend to value those first 2 more than they value the last 3, and people who identify as more conservative tend to value. They tend to work with all 5 a little more. So it's interesting. So they're maybe working with all 5 a little more than liberals, who tend to really value those first 2 again and again. So
the first 2, harm, care, and fairness and reciprocity. What you're saying is that liberals continue to score high on those, that say they somehow are a value. But
conservatives value the other 3 more than liberals for sure. And in fact, liberals can sometimes be suspicious of those other 3. So like authority tend to be
question authority.
Yep. Or purity, purity codes. We found this. We preach, right? With some hesitation or some suspicion around purity codes from the Old Testament, as an example, at a more liberal-leaning church. Makes sense. I found it to be pretty accurate in a lot of ways, and so what's great about it is that he's inviting you to question wherever you fall on that, and whatever you value, to at least step back out of that, the matrix as he calls it, and to at least question this. Are there ways in which I'm undervaluing, as someone who tends to lean liberal, authority or purity? In what ways do I, and you were making this point.
Yeah, I was saying that we might not say outwardly that we value the in-group, loyalty to a homogenous group, or that we value authority as much as the conservatives do, or that we have an allergy to talk about purity. Right. And as liberals, we have our own purity codes. And one of the examples he uses is we have purity codes around what kind of food we eat and where the food comes from. And so there's some purity.
Whereas conservatives might talk about purity in terms of the body or sexuality. And liberals, think they're too uptight.
Right.
But liberals can be really uptight about where you shop for your food, and is it organic, and did those chickens get, a walk that day before they were, use, sorry, right?
Right.
We can get a little,
Right, and liberals have their own authority, people who give us authority that we listen to, certain authors, certain news networks. So we have our own canon of authority. And so I think what Jonathan Haidt is saying, we need to step back, do some self-reflection, see where each of us falls where you fall in the moral psychology paradigms, I guess, spectrums, and then be careful that we divide ourselves into us and them. So they believe those things, we believe these things, and we are right and they're wrong, or because everyone thinks they're right, is his point. We all think we're right because we all have these roots that empower our belief systems.
we're kind of built, we come into this world this way.
Right.
And it's just natural for humans to do this, probably from an evolutionary standpoint, to divide into these groups and to disparage the other group.
Right.
Right. So it's helpful to think about this.
And he challenges us to see the whole and value the whole picture. It sounds so simplistic, and yet I found it really helpful.
I did too. Yeah. So a couple of things. Watch the video if you haven't watched the video. Take the survey. I haven't taken it yet. Have you? Have you?
No.
No.
Yourmorals.org, but I looked at it.
Yeah. And then just, I think for questions, take those 5 moral foundations that we just named and that he talks about, and just have some discussion about, what are you drawn to? What are you suspicious of? I think there'll be a lot there with those 5 things to talk about.
Yes, and at the end of the day, he says to cultivate moral humility, that we don't have all the answers.
Yeah, you should do that. Yeah, that's good.
Have a good night.